Don't forget to stick around through the end of the video for information on our Arrive Serpentor Arrive giveaway. Born in Las Vegas, Nevada, and growing up in a man-made oasis surrounded by desert, it seemed only natural that Ronald Tadur, or codenamed Dusty, would grow to develop a deep knowledge and appreciation for such a harsh and unforgiving environment. Ask whether I'm referring to the desert or Vegas, and I'll say yes. In this case, Dusty's affinity grew for the slightly more harsh desert environment, and as he grew and studied the ecology, learned to become an expert tracker with an aptitude for stealth when stalking enemies, he became another perfect candidate for G.I. Joe. First introduced in 1985 with the Real American Hero 3 3/4 inch line, Dusty was a figure that immediately stood out from the rest. With his full camo and a desert headgear, one of the very few in the entire line to have soft goods integrated with the typical plastic figure. Ronald Tadur was an instant classic. It's possible the creators knew this would be the case, as his name was derived from the G.I. Joe artist Ron Rudat, or Tadur, backwards. Dusty made regular appearances in the G.I. Joe A Real American Hero animated series, even becoming Outcast #1 when he turned on his fellow Joes to work with Cobra as a traitor. But don't worry, Dusty would never let the team down. It turned out he and Duke had a clever scheme that involved Dusty going undercover as a double or triple agent to fool and foil Cobra in the end. His presence has been one of almost 4 decades and has appeared in many versions across every line of G.I. Joe figures since his 1985 introduction, and now he's here again in higher detail thanks to the classified line of figures. Hey everyone, my name is Jonathan, aka JK of JK Collection. Remember, I'll be posting new videos almost every day as great new ads arrive. And if that sounds of interest to you, please click that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Now in this episode, we are taking a closer look at the Hasbro 6-inch scale G.I. Joe Classified series, Ronald Dusty Tadur. Hey everyone, welcome back, and here it is, another addition to the G.I. Joe Classified series line and collection. Dusty, very cool figure. Happy to see it. I can already tell though that the mix of soft goods and plastic is not there, and that's a tragedy. But you know what? I'm just happy to see a Dusty. Also, tragedy that there's no Sandstorm. Remember old Dusty and Sandstorm? That one that came out, the red hair, the shortcut. Anyway, I move on. There is our mural on the back. We don't have a Dusty. So just like we saw with the Crimson Guard, it is not included on there. We need yet another updated mural because we've got people that are out that are not included, right? So no Mindbender, no Serpentor. So many things need to be added. So here are the skills and rankings for those that you can see on gijoe.com, gijoe.hasbro.com, but easy to find. And then here on the side, we've got the artist representation. There's Dusty. Looks like he's doing some tracking. Also got a little, almost seems like some strong winds and or sand, so kind of bearing that. Pull those goggles down. Ready to do a little bit of attacking right there, and then just looking somber. Still serious. But there we go. And another one that has escaped the windowless packaging. It's interesting to see how many of these made it through without being having that removed and still being able to see the figure. So that's very cool. All right, so let's bust into it as usual. Let's get that little piece of tape down there. Open it from the bottom because that is the, I feel, least invasive, least intrusive. There's our pamphlet. These are, can't be without it. We'll pull that out. We've got the G.I. Joe background. We've got an empty box, and we'll set that to the side as usual. And nothing hidden behind there, so all the accessories that it comes with you can see up front. Let's start plucking things out. So it looks like we've got 2 different sets of goggles. Very interesting to see. And let's pull the backpack out. I appreciate how easily these things are coming out of the plastic. This knife that's kind of tucked in behind another piece of the plastic. That magazine just popped out very easily, so be very careful with that, because those are small, and it seems like they could easily go flying. There's his rifle, and here is Dusty himself, popping right out with a very loud plastic crinkle, and we have an empty tray, so we're going to put that to the side as well. And let's take a look at the Dusty accoutrement. So as I mentioned, there are 2 sets of goggles here, which is very interesting. Let's see if we can identify some differences here. Okay, looks like what we're dealing with is, yeah, so it's just a different size of the band, right? Otherwise, I mean, basically the same thing, but one for the head because it's a little bit smaller, and then one to go around the helmet for that that dusty look that we're used to, right? Because it used to have the goggles affixed at some points on some figures. The general idea of the goggles is basically the same. I could be making this up, but it almost looks like they're slightly different hues of plastic, but I think that's just a trick of my eye and my lighting, because on the screen it actually looks identical. So as you're probably saying as you watch, the silver application looks fairly decent for the lenses on both of them. There's a weird, see, there's like a line in there. It's not where it's thin or gone through. There's just almost like there's a mark, and it goes all the way across both of these lenses. It's very interesting. I wonder if there's something maybe on this side. No, that is just absolutely flat. So it's not something from the other side, from the casting or anything like that. It's just something that happened when it was being applied. No big deal. Not enough to really take away from it. And yeah, so all in all, these are very cool. They are cast from this grayish, brownish, very flexible plastic so that it has the ability of flexing onto the helmet and or the head. So I appreciate that they gave those two options instead of just limited to one. Here is the his little knife, his little side weapon. Very small blade, but you know what? He doesn't need a lot. He's that skilled. Cast in the black plastic with a silver blade painted onto it, and painted on very well, right? So you can see the line for it, and it looks like that line meets exactly where it was supposed to on the knife. It's because you can see where it steps out just a little bit right there on the black. So it is an intentional thing right there, unless it was supposed to go all the way down. But it seems like the blade is designed to be sculpted to be recessed into the black right down there, and that's where it kind of protrudes out. So I'm going to say it was painted very well. There's no thin spots or anything like that on it. The handle, very well sculpted, looks pretty clean. Kind of tough to ask for more on something so small and so simple with a lot of basic things. Okay, to stay on the line of weapons, let's take a look at this rifle that we've got here, and it's got the those little support legs so he can prop it up and you know, just watch. Do his little stalking people in the desert thing and just wait. But this is a very cool weapon, right? It's very cool design to it. I appreciate that the legs, if you know what these are called, please throw it in the comments. I do not know. I'm going to research it afterwards. But I do always like when I get a chance to learn from you, if you know it off the top of your head, what that is called when it's attached to a weapon like that, so they can just prop it up. But yeah, I like that it's in that brown plastic, and it does have the ability to swivel back and forth. So it can be just normal carrying it around and then prop it up. A very excellent sculpting and shaping on this one. It's so cool. And it does have, of course, a removable magazine. It goes on the back here. So let's see. Am I putting that in right? There we go. Did I do that right? Let's see. Let's flip it around. Yeah, I think I did it right the first time based on the shape. Now tell me if I've absolutely gotten that wrong. I feel like that's the correct way, but I could be absolutely mistaken. Either way, it does go in, and it looks very cool, and I'm always happy to have that removable magazine for it. And again, the detail on this is fantastic. This is one where you can see the different finishes from the plastic and maybe release agent going on there, but still, you know, this one does not have an opening for a blast effect, so that's kind of interesting. It looks like it was supposed to, but it was never drilled. You see that? It's recessed a little bit, but doesn't go far enough in. Very interesting. That's unfortunate. But could have benefited from a little bit of a wash to kind of bring out some of those additional details. If you're going to sculpt it, show it off. All right, so now here is our backpack. Massive pack, and it's got that kind of looser material. The way that they sculpt this, it almost looks like it's like a parachute type material that this is made out of, because it looks very loose, but also very durable, to where it's going to stand up. Because, you know, it's got these very fine and very grouped together wrinkles, and normally you don't see that on a thicker like canvas or whatever material backpack. So very neat to see that, how you can imply the texture and just kind of get an idea of what this probably feels like, you know, in hand. We've got a canteen on the side. Would have been cool to see some of the details painted. That is certainly an opportunity with a lot of the backpacks with G.I. Joes, as a little bit of paint apps to bring out the details on this. I can look past the weapons. I can say, you know what? Skip these, bring in the little details out. Bring some more details out on these packs, right? You sculpted a canteen on there. Paint that lid. Paint the lid on this side. And, you know, some of the little extra details on here. You know, granted, a lot of it is just the pack, but, you know, we've got straps and things like that. Anyway, I digress. That'd be cool. Cast from that brown plastic. It is very well done and very well sculpted. Just masterfully done. out of that, regardless of any extra paint apps. And here is the desert headgear, which in the original from like here down was that soft goods, which was so cool. I mean, it looked like a mullet like fluttering out, but it was just so neat as a kid to have that. Now this is a very soft plastic, right? So the whole thing is flexible, which is good, you know, for like posing and things. So that means that's not going to cause a big of hindrance when you have it on the head. And it's going to fit very easily. And then of course the larger goggles should go on fairly well and stay put right above that line. It looks like, yeah, it looks like that line is the stopping point to kind of help hold them. I don't think they're designed to go below it because it takes a lot of effort, and then the goggles kind of just stop. Right there's a little bit of a lip at the front. Oh, yeah, get focus to catch up. So there we go. Yeah, very neat. And I appreciate the paint apps, the detail on this to get at least these straps and these buckles, and then some of the camo painted on there. And the texture of it, I also appreciate that. You know, it's not just very simple. It's got some lines sculpted into it just to show that it's a lightweight material that's designed to protect from the harshness of the sun and things like that. So let's move on to old Dusty himself, Mr. Tadur. And look, he's even got Tadur on his shirt. How about that? It's not common that you see that with G.I. Joe where it shows the actual name and not just the code name. But I mean, this guy, he definitely is designed to be a soldier, right? And he certainly looks like it. And I appreciate that. It's a very cool look. He does have the camo on the face like we saw in the very original version. You know, a little bit cleaner application, a little bit more sensible because we've got it on there. Now the face sculpt and realism, I say realism because, you know, whose face is this? It's very well done, right? It looks like it is a real normal face. It's not just like something that looks like some rough approximation of a face that was put on there. They definitely do a great job. It has that slight shine to it, but that's no big deal. I mean, we even see it kind of on the neck as well. But the details, like the eyebrows are done very well. The eyes themselves also, just, it's amazing the detail that they can get on these, right? Just the little lines to help make the eyes pop, to imply the eyelashes up at the top. And then you can see just the details on the eyes themselves. Okay. Hair, looking pretty good. The sculpt for it is very well done. I appreciate all the separation. And this is that same brown color all the way around. It almost looks like a little bit, kind of got extra on the head right here. Yeah, just a little bit down. There's a little bit of a dot right there. But not enough to really be an issue because if it's back, you kind of can't really tell. You know if you're looking for it, but the way that the hair is sculpted, it does bump down in that same spot, so it kind of makes up for it. The ear sculpt, very well done. All in all, the head looking great. Let's see how flexible it is. So the neck is separate from the torso, so we do have a little bit of help with that. The side to side for the head itself, not terrible. If we bring the neck in, obviously it does give it a little bit more capability. I'm a little gentle when I try not to include the neck, but once the head gets a little bit looser, that's really, you know, it's not terrible. Could be worse. And then up, very good, very far past straightforward. And then if we look down, we can go down the head itself very well. If we involve the neck, it will bend down, but watch, the neck does pop right back up to where it was. So the neck does not have a lot of mobility is the moral of the story here, especially back because we've got that collar getting in the way. But this is a very long neck, so I'm very confident that we can do a full exorcist rotation, and sure enough, we can. We made it without involvement from the neck. And then we've got this harness right here, the straps that goes around. It is flexible plastic, but the reason I point that out is because behind it, we have a nice butterfly joint for the shoulder, so happy to see that. And that helps with some great flexibility in bending it backwards. And this is another one where it is very well done. It's like if the shadows work with you, it's not quite as apparent as some other butterfly joints have been. With me, against me. With me, against me. Okay, so there we go. Good rotation of the shoulder, and then we have the bicep tricep, which is also that kind of flat look, but the sculpting of this, where it's not too overly muscular, obviously there is muscle in there, but then the sleeve also makes up for it. There's a little less of this flat bit that happens in the rotation, right? So the tricep does kind of poke down where you have the joint for the shoulder as well, but it's not as bad as sometimes it can be when you don't have that round shoulder and the bicep tricep kind of curving up on it where it's got that U shape. So, but pretty clean, even with it being that flat platform. Now look at that, wow. Look at that double elbow, double pinless elbow nonetheless. So that's excellent flexibility right there because again, we don't have a lot of excess in the way, right? So we're just dealing with sleeves and it's not overly muscular in any kind of like unrealistic way. No wrist rotation or no forearm rotation, but we do have wrist rotation. And this is a forward and backwards supinate, pronate type thing. I can already see that the elbow is a little bit different color than the rest. See, this is more almost like a flesh tone, like a darker. See, it seems like it's closer in tone to the flesh than it is to the actual sleeve. Same thing on this side, but this arm does have that same functionality all the way down, but then this wrist is an up and down because it is more of a weapons holding one. Now, granted, both of them are trigger fingers, but typically the weapon goes into the right hand. So there we go. And moving on down, we do have that U joint kind of in there that we're used to for the mid-torso or lower rib cage. So definitely have the back. So 1, 2, 3 good positions, and then you can kind of extend it beyond that. But 3 positions where it snaps into place, and the back and forward are very excellent. We do have waist rotation. Now there's a very interesting thing going on right here. So what they've done is this whole thing right here is a cast soft rubbery plastic, right? In this brown. So there's this pouch that has one little strap belt that goes all the way around, and then this other larger belt that goes all the way around. So they're separated here, but they attach on the pouch. And then this lower part is painted the same color as this to look like it's the bottom of the shirt in these BDUs, right? So an interesting concept. I don't know how great that, I mean, when it's still and is positioned, it's not bad in execution. I kind of feel like, why? You know, I don't mean to sound terrible about it, but if you look underneath, I feel like this was set up to already be pretty successful. But you know, they had their reasons. It is there and it's not terrible, but I do have the question of why, and especially when you have a little bit of paint, splatter up there on the brown. Now we do have waist rotation. It does help mask some of where the gaps would happen. So maybe that's why. Maybe they're experimenting with ways to get rid of that gap and help with the realism. But, you know, this is that flexible plastic up underneath. And then with the legs, we have the drop down. So we've got a full desert split because we do have that capability. And then the forward and backward. It's going to be that same kind of behavior that we see, right? So forward is great for a little bit of rotation. And then back, you got to be kind of delicate with that, right? So it takes a little bit of positioning. So it can rotate kind of to the side, but then the knee would take over for more of a backwards kick or pose type thing. So you didn't have this massive gap right there. And speaking of knee, excellent flexibility for limbering up for a good old run through the desert. And it is a double pinless knee, and we do have boot rotation. So I appreciate that they mask it with the boot. Not only that, but it comes in figures in different levels, right? So sometimes the boot goes all the way up here, and they use that boot line. So it's not just a standard line that they've chosen. They do it where the top of the boot is to kind of help mask that line, that seam in there. And as you can see, the knees are also a different color from the rest. Now, is one thing that I can say, you know what, let's finish with the boot. So wow, that back is good for the foot, back and forward, not too bad, but that back is amazing. And then of course we've got ankle brake capability, and it's got the same functionality over on this side. And this is the little sheath for that tiny little blade that he had all the way down here, right? How sneaky. So let's just go ahead and put that one in over here. Okay, so as I was saying with these, like the knees and the elbows looking a little bit different, I wonder if it's implied to be a slightly different texture because it does have a texture sculpted into it to where it would be a little bit different color. You know, that's what I'm going to go with, almost like it's a pad that is integrated into the BDUs to make it a little bit more durable because those are areas where a lot more wear could happen. For those of you out there who actually do and have worn BDUs, tell me if that is potentially a thing, right? That could be why we've got a different shade here. Otherwise, it just kind of looks like the plastic was cast in a different color, and that's unfortunate. I want there to be an intention, not an accident. Paint apps, looking good, right? And just going around this, normally you can kind of spot issues like that right there. It would be neat to see this, the little shoulder pocket pouch drawn out, you know, to see some more detail on it. I think you got like a little pin in there, but you know, just to make that more pronounced. If you're gonna go through the detail of sculpting that into it, let us make sure we see it. Make sure we don't miss these things, right? But the camo on there, very well done. Not really any kind of issues with the patches of it. I appreciate that there's even some around on the back. This thing is still a mystery to me as to why. The shade matches the plastic pretty well for the cast plastic, even if, you know, we've got texture here and then not much texture on this, which kind of causes this to have a more of a glossy, smoother effect, and then this, of course, has that textured effect. So interesting to see that, and same thing here. This is a lot smoother than it is down here, where this is a lot more textured and flat or matte, and this is a glossy. The G.I. Joe and Tadur and American flag name tags, very well applied, right? So no issues I can see right there. Very clean. Would be neat to see the, you know, just some of these pockets just kind of popped, or the snaps, if that's a thing right there. If it is able for that to be in regulation, G.I. Joe regulation. So anyway, and the green on this little harness, very well done. And it goes all the way around for like, looks like a Camelback, not sponsored by Camelback, but, you know, just one of the name brands I can think of the hydration option. All right, so now let's see how the helmet goes on. Always gotta love the removable helmets and everything. Now this one, it is very loose on there, I will say. So when you get it put on there, don't hit it, right? Because if I just tap it, it moves, right? So that kind of stings. It would have been neat to see a little bit tighter, or you know, something that would help make it stay, and maybe with some heat or something could be kind of tucked up in there to make it a little bit more tight. But it definitely, if you put it on and just slightly touch it, it ruins your positioning right there. So anyway, that is Dusty. Let's see how he stands on his own with his odd-looking desert headgear. Okay, so there we go. And he stands pretty well without too much coaxing on his own. All in all, you know, it's a G.I. Joe. Of course I like it. Of course I'm a fan. Is it my favorite? No. Am I happy to have another Dusty? Yes, absolutely. Would I have loved to have a Sandstorm with him? You bet. But we'll be right back with some 360s. And here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dusty Tadur. Looking great, right? Just a very well-made figure. The paint was very well done, very minimal issues with it. I like the simplicity of it. The only thing that really stood out to me is the headgear and how loose it can be, right? So I had to reposition it multiple times just to have this pose. Because if you slightly touch it, it does shift. But once you get it into a nice pose, it doesn't really matter, right? It will pretty much stay. And not move, as you can see. You know, as I ramble on, it is not moving on its own. So, great figure. I am a sucker, I will admit it, every day for a G.I. Joe figure. I've always been a big fan of Dusty, and like I said, absolutely would love to have a Sandstorm included with it, but hey, I guess we can't have everything, at least not right now. There's always the future. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you get a chance to get one if you are looking for it. They are readily available now, I believe. All right, thanks. Hey everyone, we are currently running our Serpentor Arrive giveaway, where we are giving away one Hasbro G.I. Joe Classified Serpentor with Air Chariot. All you have to do is comment on this video to be entered to win. Each video during the giveaway period will have a secret keyword shared within the video, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Because the first person to comment that keyword gets pinned to the top of the comments and gets 2 entries for that video. A special thank you goes out to all of you for making it possible for us to be able to already start giving back. Well, that should do it for this one. Thank you, as always, for checking us out and for joining on this collecting journey. Remember, we are posting new videos almost daily as new ads and releases come. If we ever do a review of something you are trying to find for yourself, please follow and DM us on Instagram at JKCollectsToys so we can help with the search if we don't already have a way to get one. Also, if you got anything out of today's episode, be sure to subscribe and click that like button so you can stay up to date on new ones. If you'd like to see some more videos, there are a couple of quick links on your screen right now for you to check out. But no matter what, as always, thank you for taking the time. And remember, we're all in this world of collecting together. Let's look out for each other. Thanks.